Good morning. My name is Betty Thomas. I'm a senior administrator for the University of Michigan out of the Benefits Office, and we're going to go ahead and get started with today's presentation. It is 9 o'clock. I would like to take the opportunity to introduce Kimberly Turner-Zorn, who is a technical expert in the Retirement, Disabilities, and Survivors in Medicare Department in the Ann Arbor office. Please welcome Kimberly.
Good morning, and thank you for the warm welcome. It's my pleasure to be here again today. We've had a wonderful partnership here with U of M and providing information that you may need as you go forward in order to file for retirement and Medicare. So thank you again for inviting us to be here with you today. We'll have time for question and answers at the end. I'm happy to answer absolutely as many questions as I possibly can. I am in the Ann Arbor office. It's a wonderful office. You're very fortunate to have us with you. It's a very caring office and very technically advanced, I would say, in order, I guess, in knowledge base. And so my job for my department is to be the technical person. If we run into an unusual case or a case that we can't get to process, if we're concerned about the laws, I'm the person that they come to make sure that we understand how to appropriately pay you your benefits. We're one of the only agencies that I know of who exist to pay you money. And not only to pay you money, but to look and see, is there any other money that we can pay you? That's part of our responsibility, and we do that happily for you. We're going to start out this morning with Medicare. It's a big topic, and everybody has Medicare questions. The first thing I would say is that please be aware that Social Security is not Medicare. We are separate federal agencies. We are contracted, however, to help you enroll and disenroll from Medicare A and B. Medicare C and D, you would enroll with another company. As Michigan Medicine U of M employees, you more than likely will not need Medicare C and D. So when you see all of those ads on television that tell you, hurry up, you're going to miss the deadline, try not to panic. You can always make a call to the benefits office, but if you're a retiree, my understanding is that most retirees here will have something that will be equal to or better than what Medicare C or D will plan for you. Anyone age 65 or older can qualify for Medicare. If you are on Social Security disability and are receiving monthly benefits from us, you will qualify for Medicare at an earlier age. You would have to receive disability for 24 months prior to being entitled to Medicare A and B. We automatically enroll you if you are on disability, and you don't have to come into the office to do that. If you have ALS or if you have end-stage renal disease, and also this exposure to environmental health hazards, that's not something I've ever seen, but it's a possibility. We can get you Medicare much sooner. If you have ALS or end-stage renal, you can get Medicare beginning with the month you first become entitled to disability benefits. If, however, you are continuing to work and you have end-stage renal and are able to manage your dialysis and continue to work, we can just get you Medicare based on your dialysis or a possible kidney transplant. You do not have to receive money from us, disability money or retirement money, in order to have that Medicare coverage if you have end-stage renal disease. Signing up for Medicare Part B sounds scary. It's actually easier than you think it is. The initial enrollment period is the month you are 65, 3 months before, and 3 months after. If you are still working and you have full medical coverage through your current employment, you do not have to enroll for Medicare A and B. Here at U of M, we do have retirees or workers who are still working and they want their Part A. Medicare Part A is inpatient hospitalization coverage. It would be supplemental to the coverage that you have through your employment here. You don't need your Part B at that point if you're still currently employed. So we'll answer questions about that because I see some puzzled faces. I'm going to answer some questions about that at the end. There is another enrollment period called a special enrollment period, and this may answer some questions. If you continue to work after age 65, you are currently employed, and I'm going to emphasize currently employed because that's what the Medicare law says. You can delay filing for your Medicare Part B as long as you are still currently employed, have full medical coverage through that employer, and there are more than 20 employees. Then Medicare would be secondary payer, and you can delay filing for Part B. You can delay filing for Part A as well, but if you want Part A, it is free if you have paid in your 40 credits, and so you can have that Part A if you want to while you are working. If for some reason you miss your special enrollment period, there is something called a general enrollment period. So if there has been some confusion and you did not file timely at the time of your retirement or separation from your employment, we can enroll you in January, February, or March of every year. But your coverage does not begin until July of that year, July 1st. Medicare coverage always begins on the 1st of a particular month. The month you come to see us or you file online for your Medicare determines the month your coverage begins. I like to tell people, if you know a month ahead of time when you're going to retire, talk to us or go online and let's do your Medicare application at that point. The earlier you file, the more choice you have on when your Medicare coverage begins. And so I want everyone to have that potential for receiving their Medicare benefits at the exact time that they need it. If you fall under that special enrollment period, there's going to be a form that you fill out, as well as one the university will fill out. Those are available on our website, and the people here in the benefits office are excellent at completing that. I have met some of the ladies who do that here, and we have a great understanding. They fill them out perfectly. When you come into our office or mail them in, we know exactly how to get you enrolled on time, so you can have great confidence in your benefits department in that way. Medicare has 4 parts. We deal with A and B. Probably you will only be dealing with A and B. I can't predict that in its entirety, but more than likely you'll only need A and B. Part A is your inpatient hospital coverage. There is no monthly premium for you to pay if you have paid in sufficiently throughout your working career. To receive retirement, it's 40 credits. To receive free Medicare Part A, it's 40 credits. So basically 10 years of solid work gives you your 40 credits. Hospital expenses might include a semi-private room, your meals, some general nursing care, hospital services, and supplies. There is a deductible. This year in 2017, the Part A deductible is $1,316. Medicare Part B covers the things that you most often use, so medical visits to your doctors, medical tests, outpatient expenses, after the first $183 in approved charges. The standard monthly premium for Medicare Part B this year is $134 per person per month. I did talk about disability a little bit. What is important to remember, and I do have questions about this pretty frequently, if you are separated or somebody you know is separating from a job and they are being offered COBRA coverage, COBRA coverage is really great for you if that works for you, but it does not negate the enrollment period for Medicare. You must contact us about Medicare because your enrollment period is ticking along, and Medicare does not count COBRA as the kind of coverage you need to keep you going. So that's something, if you are leaving your job or your loved one is leaving their job and they have COBRA, still contact us about Medicare if they are 65 or older. Part C, we're just going to go over very basic information because I don't think you're going to need it, but it may help some of you or some family members. Medicare Part C helps cover what A and B do not cover. You enroll through Medicare Part C through an insurance company, and you pay a monthly premium for that. It helps cover things like those deductibles and copays that Medicare A and B don't cover. One point I will make is that when you hear about Medicare Part C, you're only going to hear about it advertised as Advantage Plan. An Advantage Plan, There are other ways to enroll. It's called traditional Medigap. So you would want to be very aware about what kind of coverage you were enrolling for. Advantage is basically not a PPO. What is the other one? I'm sorry, I'm blanking out. An HMO. Thank you very much. And so you have to use the network. You have to use in-network doctors, that kind of thing. Buying a traditional Medigap plan is like buying, I say, a la carte. You pick and choose what you want. You may pay a slightly higher monthly premium, but you may have better coverage. If you live in 2 states or your loved one lives in 2 states and travels, for instance, my parents would travel every winter to Florida. The Advantage plan did not work for my parents. They had to have a traditional Medigap so they could go anywhere in the United States they wanted to go where Medicare was accepted. Part D, again, you may never have to use. That is always drug coverage, so your prescription drug coverage. Most retirees, my understanding from the U at Michigan Medicine, you will not need Medicare C or D, but there are monthly premiums. If your loved one needs to enroll in Part D, they're going to contact an insurance company to do that, and they will pay a monthly premium. It was a law passed in 2006 that says some people may pay a higher monthly premium for Medicare Part B. That $134 a month that I mentioned for Medicare Part B premium represents 25% of the total cost of your Medicare Part B, and the federal government pays the other 75%. So in 2006, Congress passed a new law that said for certain people with higher income levels, the government was going to require them to pay a higher percentage than that standard 25%. And so based on your modified adjusted gross income, you may end up paying slightly more than that $134 per month. Now there are not ways around it, but there are exceptions to that. If you have experienced a life-changing event like retirement or death of a spouse or divorce, and you have had a significant decrease since retirement in your modified adjusted gross income, then we may be able to reduce you back to that standard $134 a month premium. Try not to worry about it ahead of time. If it happens, Medicare will send you a letter and let you know. And I think the best way is then to ask questions. If you have any questions about it, come and talk to us. Giving proof that your income has reduced is a fairly easy thing to do. It's something we do on a regular basis. There is extra help with Medicare prescription drug costs, and again, I'll mention this in case you have a loved one who is struggling with their prescription drug costs and their premiums. Our agency does help some with low income pay for their Part D coverage and their copays. That application is available online or in our office, and it can be of help to someone who does not have great medical coverage in retirement, someone who is elderly. My father is a Ford retiree, and in 2008 he lost all of his medical coverage. And so we had to work toward getting him all kinds of new coverage, he and my mother. He was very fortunate to be able to afford his coverage, but there are others that he knew over the years that were struggling with that. Some of our most seniors don't receive as high a benefit, and so they have a hard time with that, and we can help with that as well. And that's what it's called extra help, and it can be worth up to $4,000 per year, so it is quite helpful for some. How do you qualify for retirement benefits? I touched on this just a moment ago. You need to work and earn credits. You can earn 4 credits per year. And in 2017, you need to earn $1,300 to earn 1 credit. You can earn a maximum of 4 credits per year. So in 2017, for example, to get all 4 credits for this year, you have to earn at least $5,200. $1,300 times 4. No big secret. Earning 40 credits or 10 years of work throughout your working life will qualify you for a retirement benefit. Deciding what is the right time to retire is a very personal decision. When I started with our agency 12 years ago, we did a lot more in the advice business. We would figure out your break-even point and tell you what we thought was the best time to retire. And if you didn't do it then, we had to document that I had had this discussion with you and you had declined. But life has changed a lot in the last 12 years. Life expectancy has changed. Our economy has changed. Who works and who doesn't work has changed a great deal. We don't give advice anymore. We don't even provide a break-even point for you anymore. You have a lot of things to think about when you are getting ready to retire. One of the most important things to do is to go online and check your retirement statement. This is the statement we used to mail to you every year about 2 or 3 months before your birthday. We don't mail those out anymore unless you're over age 60 and have not signed up for an online account. So if you have received one this year, that means you didn't go online and sign up for a My Social Security account. We have to think about Medicare and Medicare costs. So whatever benefit you receive at retirement, we're going to take out that monthly Medicare Part B premium. You have to think about that. And you have to think about your tax considerations. Do you have a spouse who is working? What tax bracket are you going to be in? How will that change, or will that change, if you have Social Security money coming to you as well? Going online is one of our better ways really to file for retirement, and I promise you it's not hard. When you do it online at www.socialsecurity.gov, make sure .gov is always there, it goes to a person like me in an actual office who reviews your application, pulls it in, and if they need anything, they'll call you or they'll send you a letter. They may even email you if you have provided your email address, and any proofs that we need we will request, or any clarification that we need we will request. Right now in the state of Michigan, online retirement applications are going to a specialized office in Seattle. We can call Seattle if we ever need us to. It's not forever gone, but you will have your claim viewed, reviewed, and questioned and thoroughly dissected before you go in to pay. But if you get a call from Seattle, you'll know why. It's legitimate. It's one of my coworkers on the other side of the country trying to help you get your entitlement at the right time. If you decide to retire at age 62, what we call early retirement, anything before full retirement age we generally call early retirement, you're going to receive a lower monthly payment. At full retirement age, you receive your full monthly benefit amount. If you wait until after full retirement age, we're going to increase your payment to the tune of 8% per year. So if you are in good health and you have a job that you love and you're not ready to retire yet, you don't have to. You can keep working and let your Social Security money grow until you are ready to take it. Do not wait until after age 70. Your benefit will not increase any more after age 70. If you wait longer than that, then we would consider you to be losing money, and we don't want you to do that. Full retirement age has changed in the last few years. If you were born from 1943 to 1954, if you take your benefit early at age 62, you're going to receive 75% of your benefit. Age 66, 100%. Age 70, 132%. Full retirement age has changed. For anybody born after 1960, it has increased to age 67. 62, 65, 66, these are not the only times that you can retire. You can retire at any time, any of those years, and we will calculate the number of months you took your benefit early, and we will appropriately reduce your monthly benefit. So you can retire in any month that you meet the working and earning requirements. Some people have that mistaken idea that they got to do it at 62 or at 63 or at 64. It can happen during any time. In addition to a retiree, other people in your home may be able to receive benefits. If you have a child who is not married and under age 18, they may qualify for student benefits. If you have a child who is over 18, up to 19 years and 2 months old, still in high school, we're going to be able to pay that child as well. If you have a child who is unmarried and disabled before age 22, we would like to take an application for disability for that child, and if approved, they can receive money on your earnings record as well. Your spouse who has reached age 62 or older can receive from your record, or a spouse of any age who is caring for your child who is under age 16. That spouse would not receive a reduced benefit for being younger than 62. They would receive a full spousal benefit. A former spouse can receive benefits from your record. The marriage must have lasted 10 years prior to divorce. Your former spouse has to be age 62 or older. And if you have been divorced at least 2 years, and you and your former spouse are at least 62 years old, your ex-spouse can actually draw on your record before you file on your own record. But you have to be 62, had to have been married 10 years prior to divorce, and have to be divorced for 2 years. What's important to know is that your ex-wife or your ex-husband's benefit will not affect your benefit, nor will it affect your child if you have a child on the record, nor will it affect a current spousal benefit. A former spouse calculation is done completely outside of your family amount for you, your current spouse, and any children. Survivor's benefits work in much the same way as retirement benefits. And again, your child, if unmarried, in high school, under age 19 and 2 months, can receive a student benefit, or a child not married and disabled before the age of 22. A widow or widower does receive benefits or can receive benefits on your record. If they wait until their own full retirement age, they would receive a full benefit. You can receive a reduced widow or widower's benefit as early as age 60. If your spouse is disabled, and we find them so under our rules, medically disabled, they can receive a benefit on your record as early as age 50. So between 50 and 59, you can receive a widow or widower's benefit if we find you disabled according to our rules. Regular widows would begin at age 60. Again, at any age, if your widow or widower is caring for your child under 16 or disabled. Remarriage after age 60, if you are receiving a benefit on a spousal record and that spouse passes, so this is always a challenging thing to explain. You can receive a benefit. You can continue to receive that benefit as a widow or widower, even if you remarry. If you remarry after age 60. So if you're not on your spouse's record and they pass, and then you remarry, and you're currently married to a second spouse, I can't pay you on that widow's benefit. But if you were on it and then you remarry after 60, I can. If you were disabled and you're receiving as a disabled widow, you'd have to remarry after age 50. And again, divorced widows and widowers may qualify. At full retirement age, you can receive 100% of the deceased worker's unreduced benefit. At age 60, as an example, we're going to pay a reduced amount, and that is 71.5% of the deceased worker's full amount. Unreduced benefit gets confusing. You can receive a reduced benefit on one record at age 60, and then on another record, unreduced, at a later age. Full benefits to both widow or widower and a divorced widow or widower because the former spouse is calculated without regard to the spouse you were married to when you passed. Bullet point 3 gets a little confusing. There are times when you, as a widow or widower, might like to draw. You might like to retire early, and you might like to draw a benefit from us. You can do that as early as age 60 if you are working under the earnings limit. And you can then leave your own benefit to grow. And it can grow as high as you want up until age 70. So I could start you on a widow's benefit today at age 60 if you're under the working limit. And you can just receive that along and let your own keep growing and growing and growing and growing. And when your own exceeds what you receive, I can take you off of widows, take a new application, and put you on your own benefit. It happens pretty commonly. It's something we do all the time, but you have to remember that we do have that earnings limit. Just as if you were taking early retirement, early widows has an earnings limit, and we'll talk about that. Other survivor benefits include parent benefits. Now, this doesn't happen very often. In 12 years, I've only seen it twice. But it is there if the person who passes, the deceased worker, had a parent for whom they were financially providing more than 50% of their support, I may be able to pay that parent a monthly benefit. Excuse me. There is a one-time lump sum death benefit also when a spouse passes away. That will not automatically come to you. You do need to file for that benefit. It is the same amount that it's been for the last 30 or 35 years. I don't have any indication that it may change. So if you are 52 and your spouse dies, you're not old enough for a widow's benefit yet, but I can take an application and pay you that one-time payment of $255. Going online to Social Security is a great way to protect your record. It's also a great way for you to access information that you might otherwise have had to call the 800 number or come into the office and see us about. You set up your own personal individual account with our agency and our website. And you can look at your own statement. Since we're not mailing them out anymore, you can look at your statement online and you can print it out for your own files. It's easy to use and it's going to stay very updated. In order to get one of these accounts started, you have to be at least 18 years old, have a valid email address, a Social Security number, and a U.S. mailing address. We are encouraging young people who are in the workforce to create especially one of these accounts because they're not going to ever get a statement mailed to them. The expenses of printing and mailing those statements is just pretty incredible, and the budget does not allow for that anymore. So if you've got a young person in your family, encourage them to go online at socialsecurity.gov. Always, please, I can't stress enough to use .gov. There are unethical people out there in the world who create websites that look like ours, and I don't ever want you to use or be fooled by a website that looks like ours and is not. If you do not currently get benefits and you do sign up for My Social Security online, you can request a replacement Social Security card. You don't have to come into the office. Michigan was one of the pilot states for this program, and it's going very well. They've extended it to several other states as well. If you go on and you have trouble with it, you can always come and visit us. Your record has to be in really tip-top shape for this to go through, but it's always worth a try before coming in. You can review estimates of your future retirement and disability benefits and estimate your spousal benefits, if you're concerned about a spouse who may not be working. Verify your lifetime earnings, review your Social Security and Medicare taxes that you've paid in, and just get more information about signing up for benefits. If you're already receiving Social Security benefits, again, you can request a replacement Social Security card, check your benefit and payment information, change your address and phone number, start or change your own direct deposit information, request a replacement Medicare card, and get a replacement SSA 1099, which is the form you get to use to file your taxes at the end of the year. One of the other reasons that I personally am recommending a My SSA account online is for security. We all know that there's a great deal of identity theft going on right now, and we work very hard to prevent that. We have great security systems in place for our online systems. But if someone has stolen your identity, and this has been in the news very recently in the last couple of weeks, they may have enough information to go online and sign up for your benefit. If you sign up for My SSA online, they can't get in and do it for you. So as a security feature, I'm recommending to everybody in my family that they go online and set it up themselves so that nobody else can get in and access your information or file a claim or get a Social Security card for you. We're going to take some questions at the end. Thank you. We had a change in the legislation that was effective in 2016, and it's called deemed filing. That's a complicated thing, but basically, if you're eligible for benefits both as a retiree and a spouse or divorced spouse, You're going to have to file for both benefits at the same time. If you're under full retirement age, is how it's always been. Now we say it's at any age. So that's where the legislation changed. So if you have reached age 62 after January 1st of 2016, the new rules apply. That means if you were born before January 2nd, 1954, old rules apply. If you were born after January 2nd, 1954, the new rules will apply. Some of you may be familiar with people who reached full retirement age and instead of taking their own benefit amount, filed to receive half of their spouse's benefit, even though they were eligible for their own. That was an unintended consequence of subsequent legislation in Congress over the years, and a financial planner found that out, figured it out, found the loophole, and then made a fortune promoting that loophole. It was not what Social Security was about. It was not the reason that Social Security was created, and so Congress did close that loophole, and it was effective last year. This also affects voluntary suspension. The change, let's talk about it. If you take your retirement benefit and then ask us to suspend your record and not pay you so you can acquire delayed retirement credits, which means waiting and increasing that amount, that monthly amount, 8% per year, your spouse or any children or divorced spouses will not be able to receive benefits while you're in suspense. Prior to the legal change, you could suspend yours and your wife could still draw or your child could still draw. We have closed that loophole. Some people that were on it before will continue. That will not change if you were grandfathered in. That's how it is. If you fell after that date of birth, then you're going to be under the new rules. This is a chart of full retirement age, year of birth, full retirement age. If you were born 1937 or earlier, your full retirement age was 65. 1938 on, that increased by 2 months for each subsequent year. If you're born between 1943 and 1954, full retirement age is a straight 66. Each year after that, it goes up 2 months. So if you're born in 56, your full retirement age is 66 and 4 months. For those born after 1960, full retirement age has been raised to 67. So just thinking about that, if full retirement age was 65 years ago and early retirement age was 62, you only had a 3-year reduction in your benefits. But if your full retirement age is 67, like mine, and I take my benefit at 62, I'm going to see a 5-year reduction. So it's an encouragement to continue working after age 62, unless you are independently wealthy, which most of us in the world are not. It's an encouragement to keep working. If you've got a good job and you're in good health, keep paying in and give yourself some more security in your retirement years. Your Social Security monthly benefit is based on your earnings, each individual's earnings. There is no blanket amount of money that everybody gets or doesn't get. I'm going to look at every single worker's money paid in, and we perform a calculation based on that. At the very first step in our computations, we adjust for changes in wage levels, let's put it that way. We find the monthly average of your 35 highest years of earnings. Lots of people think it's your highest 5, or it's some magical 5 years or 3 years that we pick out, and that's not how it works. We are literally looking at your 35 highest out of 40 years of earnings. And at step 3, then, what we figure out is an average indexed monthly earning amount. So this is going to give you a quick example of how we do that. If your average monthly earnings are, for instance, $5,500, your monthly benefit would be $2,197. And here's how we do that. We take 90% of the first $856 you earn. That's $770. Next, we take 32% of your earnings over $856 through $5,157. That $5,157 is, we subtract that $856, and to get that $4,301. So we take 30% of the 4301, which is 1376. And then finally at step 3, we take 15% of your earnings over $5,157, which is $51. You total that up in the right column and you see a monthly benefit of $2,197. And keep in mind that that is before Medicare and that's before taxes. You can be taxed on your Social Security income. When you add that to your other sources of income on your IRS filing, your 1040, there's a possibility that you could be taxed on your Social Security monies. And that comes in somewhere, for a married couple filing jointly, that's around $34,000 in total income. For a single, it's right around $25,000 in total income. We compute a spouse's monthly amount as 50% of the worker's unreduced benefit. That's where we start. If you take it early, we're going to reduce it a little more. So reduction for early retirement. If the spouse's own benefit is less than 50% of the worker's benefit, the benefits are combined. So let me explain that. So say you have, and I'm going to use a traditional example. Please forgive me, I'm not prejudiced in any way. This is one of our more typical examples. So the husband's full retirement age amount is $2,000. The original potential benefit that I start with is half of that for the spouse, which would be $1,000. Now, this wife has worked and earned and paid in and has the 40 credits, but their own benefit is pretty small because maybe she stayed home and raised kids or, whatever. And so that benefit is only maybe $400 a month. So that benefit is lower than half of that spousal benefit of $1,000. So I'm going to take the wife's application on her own, then I'm going to take a spousal application, and I'm going to combine the two amounts into one payment for the spouse. You can't have all of yours and all of the spousal benefit, that $1,000. I have to subtract your $300 from that $1,000. It gets complicated, but we do it all day. So you don't have to worry, you're in good hands if you come to see us. But we want to pay you the most you can get. If I only pay you on your record, you're not getting as much as you're due. I want to take the spouse's application and give you some of that money too and combine it. We do have a retirement estimator on our website, which is very handy. It's convenient, it's secure, and it gives you a quick financial planning tool. Very often, if you go to a financial planner, they're going to ask you to go online and do this estimator so that they have an idea of what to expect when you're coming into their office. How much are you going to get from Social Security? We're one piece of your retirement income, one portion. And then you need to look at pensions and any other kind of investments that you have. Our estimator is quite accurate. It may not be at the exact dollar, but in some cases it is that accurate. It lets you come up with different scenarios. So you can say, well, if I try it at age 64 and a half, what will I get? If I want it at age 62 and 3/4, how much will I get? You're going to be inputting some information, but you're going to get a very accurate answer. It's an estimate. I have to say it's an estimate, but it's a really good one. Our calculations are set up to give a greater return to the person who earns less per year, but works steadily year after year after year after year. And this chart shows what that looks like. So the bars, the vertical bars, that's pre-retirement percentage of earnings. So if you look at a low earner, you can expect about 55% of your former earnings coming back to you. A median earner, about 41%. A very high earner, about 34%. I've had some discussion at my desk from husband and wife filing. It's not always the most pleasant discussion, but this is how the law is written, and this is how we provide some security in your retirement years. There are a few people, and I don't know how many people here this will affect, but I'm going to give you just a quick overview of something called the windfall elimination provision. Prior to 1983, when Congress made some amendments to the Social Security Act, people could get a full Social Security benefit plus a full pension from work not under Social Security. So I'll give you a quick example. In Ohio, people who teach in Ohio, professors, elementary school teachers, doesn't matter. If you work in the state of Ohio, you are not paying into Social Security taxes. They have their own separate pension system. So before 1983, if they also had some work outside of Ohio, maybe they became teachers late in life and they already had their 40 credits in with Social Security, they could get their Social Security benefit and all of that pension benefit. In 1983, Congress said, we're not going to do that anymore. That's really kind of play in the system. So we're going to change that. And people who have government work, prior to me starting, this is years ago, they're not going to get all of it. So in Ohio, I have to look at how much money you get in your gross pension from the state of Ohio, and then I'm going to reduce your Social Security by a portion of that. In that first computation I showed you, we said we were going to look at 90% of your first $856 in earnings. So for a worker in Ohio, that 90% becomes 40%. So they're not going to get that full computation. There are some people who have some years of coverage under Social Security, and that percentage, that 40%, might change a little bit. There's a sliding scale. I'm not going to go into all the details of that. It may not affect you at all, but just know that that does exist. At one time, IPSC and Ann Arbor Fire and Police did not pay into Social Security. So we do still have some retirees in those areas where we are doing this windfall elimination provision. Also, retirees from the city of Detroit, police and fire and city employees in the city of Detroit, they are also affected by this provision. There is one huge exception to this, and that is if you have something called 30 years of coverage. That's figured a little differently than your 40 credits. It's a different dollar amount. They would stay with that 90% factor in the benefit formula. And this does show, this slide does show that if you had 21, 22, 23, 24, and upwards to 30, we're going to change that percentage in the calculator. There's also something called government pension offset. And this gets confused with the windfall elimination provision. Even in our brains, we have to sit and really think about it. Which one is which rule is which. So if your spouse worked for a non-Social Security tax job, and they have a pension, and they want to draw on your record, they're not going to get their full benefit from your record because they've got this outside pension where they didn't pay Social Security. This one does happen, and we look at 2/3 of that pension amount, literally 66%, and we overlay that onto the spousal benefit. And there are some times when they're not going to get anything at all, and there are times when you would get a small amount of money. It's worth talking to us about it and letting us work the computation because sometimes you might get enough to pay for that Medicare premium, and that's a nice bonus to have. It is possible to work and still receive retirement monies from us. But if you're taking early retirement, you have to work under a certain dollar level. We have to define retirement in some way. We define it with a dollar amount. In 2017, if you are under full retirement age and filing or receiving Social Security retirement, you cannot earn over $16,920 for the year. If you go over, you're going to owe us money, and you're going to owe us $1 for every $2 that you go over. At full retirement age, the month you become full retirement age, you have no earnings limit at all. You can earn whatever you want, pay as many taxes as you need to, and it may increase your monthly benefit, but there's no limit. Now, the tricky part is that center line. The year full retirement age is reached. So I have a family member who is going to be 66 in 2018. This family member is still working and is earning over $16,920. However, my family member is earning less than $44,880 a year. So the year you turn full retirement age is a very special year, and you may be able to retire early that year without waiting till the month of your birthday, because I'm only going to count your earnings from January 1 to the last day of the month before you turn 66. So in my family member's case, I'll tell her later that I used her as an example. So her birthday is in September. I'm only going to look at her earnings from January 1 through August 31. If she's below $44,880 in that 8-month time span, I can go ahead and entitle her in January. It'll be a slightly reduced benefit, but she doesn't have to wait till 66 in September. She can already have that money coming in, and it's only going to be reduced by 8 months. So that's not a bad way to do it. So if you're under 66, your earnings limit is $16,920. If you're in the year of full retirement age attainment, you can earn up to $44,880. The month you reach your full retirement age, there is no limit to your earnings. I don't expect you to memorize all of this, but I'm hoping that some of this will stay with you in time for you to start thinking about how to plan and where you want to go, and we are always happy to talk to you about this. We do offer disability benefits through Social Security, and we have a definition: a medical condition or a combination of impairments that prevent you from substantial gainful work for at least 12 months or are expected to result in your death. The determination from our medical agency includes age, education, and work experience. You must have paid into Social Security enough to qualify for disability. It is insurance. Retirement benefits are retirement insurance. Disability benefits are disability insurance. So depending on your age determines how many credits you have had to work in order to qualify. You must have paid into Social Security 5 out of the last 10 years in order to qualify for Social Security disability. For a younger worker, say under age 31, we require less work. Again, if you're receiving a survivor benefit, if you're receiving retirement benefit, your child may be able to receive a disability benefit, and I've mentioned that a couple of times. It's called Disabled Adult Child Benefits. We would need a medical determination for that child, and they had to have been disabled before age 22, and they cannot be married. Your spouse also may qualify on your record. If you're getting disability, your spouse could qualify when they turn 62. The spouse could qualify if they're caring for your child who's under age 16. And again, divorced spouses can qualify. You can apply online at age 18 or older. Believe that you meet that medical condition with medical impairments, and you need to reside inside the United States or in one of its territories or commonwealths. To apply online, you're going to complete an online disability application. It will take you then onto a disability report where you yourself list what's wrong, what you're dealing with, who your doctors are, what hospital visits you may have had. And then at the end, you're going to sign a form called an SSA 827, which gives us authorization to request your medical records for you. You do not have to come into our office with stacks and stacks of medical records. It's time consuming to get them, and you don't feel well enough to go get them. You don't have to pay for them. That is something that we do for you. We have just recently added a disability application through our SSI program as well, and so if you're applying online, you may encounter that as well. SSI is a program that we administer in our office. It is not Social Security disability. It's for people who are disabled and have not worked enough to qualify for disability insurance. We have, in this hospital, and especially, we have babies who are born with particular health conditions, and they may qualify for SSI benefits while they are in the hospital. We used to have someone who came over pretty regularly to take those applications right at the patient bedside. And once again, because of budget cuts, we are no longer able to do that, but we still take those applications. We still have a relationship with social workers here that call our office and make us aware of those situations. That's just one way that you might be aware of SSI disability. Applying for retirement benefits, again, I mentioned this earlier. You can do that online. It's a very straightforward, I'm not going to say easy, but it's a very straightforward application. It's a conditional application. So the way you answer this question determines what question comes up next. So it leads you through. And once again, it's going to come to a human being to review it, to see if there are any questions or any need for any kinds of proofs, maybe a proof of birth. If you were born outside of the United States and you became a U.S. citizen, but we don't have that on our records yet, you might have to bring your naturalization certificate in so that we could update that before we pay you. You can always call our 800 number to schedule an appointment. We have in-office appointments and we have telephone appointments. And you can always walk into your local Social Security office where I am, take a number and sit down and wait to see one of our specialists. This is just another online, advertisement. It's a good website, though. You'd like it. In order to apply for Social Security benefits, you're going to obviously have to have your Social Security number. You'll have to have proof of age available in case it is not already proven on our records. You'll want to have your latest W-2 or tax return with you so that you can check to make sure the earnings record we have is correct. We hear from the IRS every year. It comes through Baltimore automatically, and I start seeing earnings show up usually late March. I start seeing earnings show up. You might want to have your earnings estimate with you. You're definitely going to want your bank information with you. We do not send out paper checks anymore and haven't for several years. We need to have your bank routing number, your bank account number, and you need to tell us whether it's going to be a checking account or a savings account deposit. You're going to want information about marriages and divorces. We're going to need actual dates of marriage and actual dates of divorce. If you have served in the military, you're going to want to have access to those documents so that you can tell us your official induction and discharge dates. If you've worked for the railroad, this one sounds unusual, we need to know that as well. The railroad has their own retirement plan, and there are some things that we can do for you in our office if you were career railroad, and there are other things that we cannot. That's a little easier for us to determine these days than it was 12 years ago when I started, but make sure you have that information available if you're coming in or you have a phone appointment or even if you're filing online. So about 40% of people who get Social Security benefits do pay income taxes on those benefits. At the end of each year, you'll receive a 1099, SSA 1099. That's what you're going to use when you file your taxes so that you can show how much you've received from our agency that year. You can get a replacement 1099 by going online and setting up your account and printing it out there. If you have a family member who has died this year and you need that 1099, we can help you get that in the office. This is a question that we get pretty much on a weekly basis. But you're going to have to show us your current ID, a valid driver's license or state ID or U.S. passport, and then we're going to need to see proof that you are the right person for us to disclose this information to. Your birth certificate is important to bring with you, certified or original copy. And there's one other thing. If you are the executor of that will or if you are the person who is named in the trust to receive that information and deal with that will, we're going to want to see that too, and I forgot to mention that earlier. I think we've talked about this part already, and this. About 60 million people right now are receiving monthly benefits from Social Security, and that is divided up in this way. About 8.9 million are disabled workers, and about 1.9 million of them are wives or children of those disabled workers, or husbands. 4.2 million are widows or widowers, 1.9 million are children of deceased workers, and about 40 million are retired workers, and there are about 3 million of their dependents, spouses, or children. The basic concept of Social Security is an intergenerational transfer system. So the workers of today are paying the benefits of current retirees and other beneficiaries. Right now, there's an estimated 156 million workers paying Social Security taxes. Even just a quick look at this chart is going to tell you that things are changing and have changed historically. The fertility rate in 1920 was about 3.2 children for all women of childbearing age. During the Depression, that rate declined dramatically. But after World War II, there was a major increase in the fertility rates, and we call that the baby boom generation. And we are currently taking applications from baby boomers every day. Since 1960, there's been a major decline again in the rate of birth, and it's expected to remain relatively flat for the future. So this means there are fewer future workers to support the large generation of baby boomers who are applying. In 1960, we had about 5 workers for every beneficiary. Last year in 2016, that was down to 3 workers for every beneficiary. And we're projecting that by 2035, that will be down to only 2 workers for each beneficiary receiving benefits. The combined pressures of a massive baby boom generation and increasing life expectancy will result in an American population with more than 20% of our projected population over the age of 65 by the year 2035. The Social Security Trust Fund will be able to pay about 79 cents for each dollar of scheduled benefits after 2034, unless changes are made. This is where we're headed. There have been various proposals for congressional action. Some of those proposals include raising your Social Security taxes, what's known as your FICA tax on your pay stub. Changing the cost of living formula is one thing they've discussed. Raising the cap on earnings that are taxed is also under discussion. Right now, you're paying Medicare taxes on everything you earn, but with Social Security, there's a cap at which we do not tax beyond. Sometimes they have discussed reducing benefits and, again, raising the full retirement age, which they've already done a couple of times. Another economic factor that can affect Social Security is the rate of inflation. Social Security will probably be the only source of your retirement income that is tied directly to the Consumer Price Index. And that's important when you're going into your pre-retirement planning. This is a chart of the cost of living increases we have given over the years. You'll notice that in 2009 and 2010, we were not able to give a cost of living increase. And again, in 2015, there was no cost of living increase. This is not an arbitrary decision by the Commissioner of Social Security, nor is it a decision made by Congress or the President. This is a formula that comes out of the Department, a figure comes out of the Department of Labor. That figure goes right into a formula that is part of Social Security law, and the amount we get in a cost of living increase spits out at the other end. So we always hope that the economy is going to do well so that we can give you that increase. What you need to remember is that, or if you don't know this, if Social Security is giving no increase or a small increase, but Medicare costs jump up, the law says that we cannot decrease your Social Security payment because of Medicare. There is something called a hold harmless provision, and we will leave you at the previous year's Medicare rate until we have a cost of living increase. When we have a small increase, as we did in December of 2016, we only were able to give a 0.3% cost of living increase. So the Medicare premiums went up a tiny bit, and your benefit went up a tiny bit. We didn't decrease the benefit, but we did have to take more out for Medicare. This is the end of our regular presentation. I'm happy to answer questions. I know there will be some in the room and some online, and I will endeavor to answer them to the best of my ability.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. We're actually going to start our Q&A session now. There are microphones available for you to use, and I'm going to actually start with an online question that we have. The online question is, I was married 27 years, divorced, He died 2 months after the divorce. Am I able to start SSA on my own record at 62, then switch to his record at age 65 for a higher benefit?
So that question is an excellent one. It's something that we deal with all the time, and I did touch on that in the presentation. The question is, can I start my own benefit at 62, take early retirement, and then later switch to my former husband's record because he passed away shortly after the divorce? So that answer is yes. Our widows were not, and widowers were not affected by that change in legislation last year. Widows and widowers still have the ability to switch a benefit without harm. It's more common to start at 60 on a widow or widower's benefit and then later switch. But the way this questioner has asked is absolutely accurate. You can start at your own at 62 and take a smaller benefit, and then at full retirement age or earlier, switch over to a widow's or widower's benefit. It just requires more contact with Social Security. This doesn't happen automatically. You do need to come in or file online. We have to take the application so we can change that entitlement. Good question. The microphone's coming to you. Thank you.
I filed a voluntary suspension.
Sure.
And can I then start getting benefits with an online process, or do I need to go in the office to do that?
I would like you to either call us or come in, because I'd like to take a little signed statement from you that says I'm ready to start my benefits at this time. When did you suspend your benefits?
March of 2016.
Oh, right under the deadline.
Right under the deadline.
So this gentleman filed under the deadline, and he wants to know, he filed and suspended, and he wants to know, how does he get his benefits started again? He's suspended so he could get some delayed retirement credits. We can do it by phone, but I prefer to do it in office so that we can have a discussion about what's going to happen, answer any questions you might have, and I prefer always to take a statement from you. When you make a change to your record, I want it in writing. I think it's better for you, and I think it's better for us.
Also, I noticed that I'm unable to do the retirement benefit estimator online.
Right, because you've already retired. You just aren't getting any money.
Okay.
So once you've retired with us, you're no longer able to get that estimator online. Even though this gentleman filed and suspended, we still say you're retired with us. We've just voluntarily suspended your benefits so you could hopefully earn some extra money. Good question. Down here in the front. You're welcome. Yes.
I've been receiving paper mail in the Postal Service.
Uh-huh.
How do I know whether this information is actually from the government, from Social Service, or if I'm talking to someone on the phone, if they call me, how do I know that that person is legit?
I think that's an excellent question. I'll repeat that. This gentleman wants to know, when he gets mail, how does he know if it's legitimately from Social Security or from some other social service agency or Medicare? I'm going to refer to my dad again. And he'll call me and say, okay, I got weird mail again. You have to look at it. And he just holds it for me to come over, and I open it and I determine. You don't have the benefit of doing that. We are not going to contact you by phone. We may contact you by mail, but we're not going to mail you a statement anymore unless you don't have an online account. So the only time you're going to hear from me if you're not getting money is what? Pretty much never. Just not going to hear from us. But if you have not signed up for the online account, you're going to get that statement in the mail if you're not receiving a benefit already. So one of the ways that I check my dad's mail or my mail is I look at the fine print at the bottom of the envelope or the letter, and it usually tells you who has sent that mail to you. And they are very deceptive. These people are really good fraudsters, because there are some that I have had to examine very closely to try to determine. So my answer is, when in doubt, throw it out, shred it. If you need us, come to us and we'll help you. There are very few times when we're going to seek you out. If we find out that someone has passed away, if if a funeral home reports to us that someone has passed, it will say on there if there is a surviving spouse. We will send a letter looking for you, but it's going to go to the address of the person who passed, and it will have our letterhead, and it will generally have a reference to the local office. I don't know how else to answer that because there are so many different things coming in. When you're going online, it's got to say .gov, .gov. We've had people come in who paid for forms that are free on our website. They pay to get a replacement Social Security card. There's never a cost for a replacement Social Security card, and there is never a cost for any application you file with us. Absolutely free. So if they want money, if they want your Social Security number, if they want your Medicare number, it's probably fraudulent because we already know it.
Online question. Please talk about one-time payment for the death of a parent. My husband passed when our youngest daughter was 17. Was she eligible to receive a one-time payment? If so, can she still receive it if it's been 4 years since his death?
That's a good question, too. That one-time payment upon the death of a worker has an order of priority for payment. If there is a living spouse, that one-time payment, called the lump sum death benefit of $255, is always going to go to the spouse first. If there is no spouse living, then it's going to go down to the children. If there are no children, it would go to the executor of your estate. So there is an order of priority. You must file for that $255 payment within 2 years of death. After 2 years, we can no longer take that application. So for this questioner, as the spouse, they should have filed. If there was no spouse living, then the child. The parent would have filed on the child's behalf. We can't take an application from a minor, so usually we're taking it from a parent. I hope that answers that question. Any more questions in the audience? Yes.
My wife and I immigrated to the U.S. in '91, and so we don't have 35 years of FICA coverage, but we're both considering phased retirement and wanted to know what that effect that would have on the benefits that we get. It sounds like, from what I've been seeing, you base everything on 35 years, so anything that we make, say, like for me, it's 26 years I have. Mm-hmm. Anything I make would increase the benefit. I wouldn't decrease the benefit.
Yeah, this gentleman and his wife came to this country and started working a little later in life, and so you're concerned that you may not have 40 years of credits in yet at the time.
Oh, we've got the credits. That's no
problem. You got the credits.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
So we're always going to look at the highest 35 out of 40. And
but it's based on 35, though. It's averaged over 35.
Actually, okay. 35. If you didn't even have that, we're going to have to put zeros in,
right,
and that can affect how much you receive, your monthly benefit. But your benefit doesn't go down. Anytime you're paying taxes, it should help it to go up.
One other quick question. You were talking about pensions that were outside of the Social Security. My wife also works at the VA. Is the VA system one of these different ones, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you're working for the VA and you've been there for a very long time, you may have paid into a system where you weren't paying Social Security taxes, and that's called CSRS. If she began working there after 1983, when federal employment changed retirement systems, chances are she's under the same program that I'm under, which is called FERS, F-E-R-S, and that means that she is paying Social Security taxes. So for her, she won't have to worry about that different formula. It would be the regular formula that the rest of us are under. However, I do want to point out that if there is a foreign pension coming to either you or your wife, we may reduce your benefit due to that foreign pension. So if you have a foreign pension, when you come to file, I would say in that case, come in and see us. Bring proof of that foreign pension, and we will have that. We'll change the currency and determine how that will affect your payments. The other thing that I would mention is if you naturalized and are U.S. citizens, If you didn't come to Social Security and prove the change in citizenship, we won't have that on our records, and you'll need to do that.
We did that the day of naturalization.
Fantastic. Thank you. There are most of the judges that go through the naturalization ceremonies now, they tell people to come right in, but years ago they did not. And so there are people who've been here for quite some time who have no idea that we don't have their citizenship on record, and that's something we do have to have. These are really great questions. Everybody was obviously paying very close attention during the presentation. There seems like there's a question way in the back. One here? Thank you.
My husband is covered under the U of M insurance with me, and he's 7 years older than I am. And we did not submit any application for Medicare. He turned 68, and I'm 61. Should he have put in a Medicare application?
So the question, I always repeat the question for our online listeners. This lady is a U of M employee, and her husband is covered under her insurance through U of M. Is this correct? So it's through your current employment. Then he does not have to apply for Medicare A or B at this time. Even though he has passed his initial enrollment period at age 65, he will be covered under the special enrollment period. And I mentioned forms to fill out, so the university will need to fill out a form for you and your husband, and you will each fill out a form. And together, that will give us enough proof to enroll your husband correctly so that he will not face any penalty for late filing. Yes, when you are ready to leave the university, even if you're not 65, so something happens and you leave the university before you're 65, he's going to have to apply for Medicare then and there. And so you need to get that form. Thank you.
Okay, I plan on retiring 12/31/18. I turn 66 next September. My husband's on Social Security disability. Do I get my full Social Security disability at 66 in September?
Are you applying for retirement?
Not until next year.
So you will receive, let's see, you're turning 66 this year, correct?
No, not this year, next year.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you to repeat. When do you turn 66?
September 2018.
And when are you retiring?
12/31/18.
Perfect. Thank you for repeating that for my little brain. So you're going to receive not only your full retirement benefit, but you could receive 2 delayed retirement credits because you're waiting 2 months after full retirement age. And we'll ask you at that time, do you want me to make this effective with age 66? Or do you want me to make it effective with 66 and 2 months so that you can receive that little bit extra money for those 2 delayed retirement credits? Anything after age 66 or after full retirement age, we call a delayed retirement credit, and we count those months. And that's how we determine how much you'll receive. Does that answer your question, or did you have one more?
Well, then I'm a little bit confused. So would I benefit if I waited until my date of retirement, or could I be eligible at 66 in September while I'm still working through the end of the year?
Absolutely. The question is, at 66 in September, can you file and receive full retirement benefits even though you're still working until the end of December? And that answer is yes, because as of the month you turn 66, we don't care how much money you earn, and you can get your full retirement amount.
Okay.
Now, there is the possibility of a spousal benefit either for you or your husband, but you would have to look at his disability amount because as a disability beneficiary, he's already getting his full retirement age amount, and compare it to yours. If one of you is less than half of the other, then we're going to want to take a spousal application as well. My guess is they're going to be pretty close, and during a lifetime, you'll each just receive your own. But if one of you should pass, then we'll take a look at a spousal application at that time.
Okay. Would you suggest I come in and talk to somebody then at that
We
point?
can tell you the difference. You can also use the retirement estimator to tell you what the difference in the money amount is. With only 2 months, it's not a huge amount. But it is a way to have payments coming in for a couple of months. If you've got bills you want to pay, like a credit card you want to pay off, or you want to prepay on a mortgage or whatever, It's based on your need, where your financial need is greatest. Is it better for you in the long run to have a slightly higher payment so that it will help pay for Medicare payments in the future? Or is it better for you to have that money in hand to pay something that you want to get paid off or bank it yourself?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Most banks do not pay the return rate that we do. They're not giving you 8%. So you might want to think about taking those delayed retirement credits. Way in the back. Hi.
Hi there. I'm hoping to retire at 62 and 10 months. That's
Okay.
my plan. And I know that it's a reduced amount that I would get.
Correct.
Does it go up when I get to 66 and 2 months?
No, the question is, if I take my benefit early at any time before full retirement age, will it then go up at full retirement age? And that answer is no. When you decide to take an early benefit or reduced benefit, you are at that rate forever, unless there are cost of living increases. And here is one other way. Should you decide to go back to work very part-time after you retire, and you earn under that $16,920 amount, then we may recalculate. We're going to recalculate you every year. Automatically, you don't have to ask. If one of your low years that we used in your original computation is lower than one of these part-time earnings years now, I will drop the lower one, plug in this retirement part-time year, recalculate, and see if I can pay you anything more.
Okay.
So that's kind of a fair thing, right? And
Yes.
that's done automatically every year. You never have to ask us to do that. We always do that for
And
everybody.
we were advised, or because my husband is also thinking of retiring,
Uh-huh.
we were advised to wait until the first of the year so that we wouldn't be taxed on everything that we earned.
Tax questions I can't answer. We're not trained in that kind of law. And so that's where I would say go with your financial planner on that one. That's definitely a tax question.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, over here.
Yeah, I became a citizen in the early 90s,
Okay.
and I haven't come to Social Security office with the information. So can I come to the ANABA office and set an appointment, or do I have to sit around, take a number?
So the question is, if I need to come in and update my naturalization, can I set an appointment or do I walk in? For that particular instance, we are not able to set an appointment.
Okay.
So you can come into the office. All of our offices are open Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday from 9 to 4. And on Wednesdays, we're open to the public from 9 to noon. Lest you think that we are going home and having fun, we are in there working our little fingers off trying to get our work done. Our jobs are about a 50 or 60 hour a week job, and we get 40 hours to do it. So a few years ago with the budget cuts in Congress, the Commissioner of Social Security said the only way for us to have any hope of getting this job done is to close early to the public on Wednesdays. So we do close at noon. It won't take us very long. What's very important is that you bring the original naturalization certificate with you, not a photocopy. We can never use a photocopy of anything at Social Security. It must be the original. If you have a U.S. passport, bring that as well, and then a current driver's license or state ID.
So it's good to come at 8:45 and sit outside in the parking lot till the door opens?
You can do that. I'm going to tell you right now, there's a line every morning when we open our door, and we're peeking out to see how many people are in line. If you come at 9:15, you might not have to stand in line outside because everybody's in and checked in. And yeah, you could be. We're very fast. Are you trying to make us look bad here? Please do.
Yes.
Please do. And you are allowed to bring a phone in now. And you can actually make a phone call, but if the guard finds that it's becoming disruptive and people can't hear their numbers called, they might ask you to. We do not have Wi-Fi.
I have an online question.
You don't want us on the Wi-Fi plane.
My husband and I are the same age and he started getting Social Security benefits at age 62. I am now retiring at age 69 and just learned that I could have received spousal benefits since I was age 66. How far back, how retroactive can my benefits be for spousal coverage?
So in general, we don't pay a lot of retroactivity. When you are over full retirement age, the maximum retroactivity we can pay is 6 months. And that's the only time we pay retroactively, is if you are over full retirement age. So this person asking the question could come in, I would say come in right away, this week if you can, and let us file for a spousal benefit for you, and we'll give you 6 months of that, and then we can switch you over to your own retirement if that's what you would like to do. Good question.
My husband is planning on retiring, but then continuing to work as a consultant after. And so if he starts his Social Security, I saw the 16,000 plus limit that you already showed. Mm-hmm. Does taking money from your own retirement account affect that at all?
So the question is, if I'm working part-time after I retire with Social Security, mm-hmm. what other income counts toward that earnings limit, right? Mm-hmm. The only thing we're looking at is earned income. So I'm looking at wages and I'm looking at self-employment in terms of that earnings limit. If you have other money coming in, dividends or whatever, I'm not looking at that. Some people have rental income. I'm not looking at that. It's work and money that you're paid for actual work. So you don't have to worry about that. Self-employment, I don't know. If he's consulting, he may be paid by 1099 as a contractor, an independent contractor. We do look at net for people who are self-employed. So that's a little different figure. And if he wants to retire before full retirement age and he's self-employed, we're just going to ask for a little more information so that we can be sure that he's going to stay under that earnings limit. We also look at the value of that self-employment. Is he the only employee? Is he in control of who's getting paid what? Who's making the decisions? A consulting job where he is the only person working is pretty straightforward, but I would like to see an estimate of what the earnings will be for the year, if at all possible, when he applies. That just makes my job easier and his life easier. When we ask for information, it's not because we're interested in your personal life. It's because we have a set of laws that Congress wrote. Social Security policy is derived from that law. And our job is to find out how all of these millions of people in this country can fit into that law. So each individual case is exactly that. It's individual, and we're going to work with you to see what we can do to try to get you money or not get you money. One other thing I'll mention that I didn't talk about in the presentation and that is confusing sometimes to people with that earnings limit of $16,920, if you have worked part of the year and you want to retire, say, now, and you've gone over that $16,920, you can still retire with us. You've already gone over the yearly limit. But in the first year of retirement with Social Security, we can look at annual earnings or monthly earnings, whichever is more advantageous to you. So if you have worked through all of September, you're way over the earnings limit of $16,920. If as of October 1, you're not going to have a working month for the rest of the year, then I can entitle you in October. Non-work would be under the monthly limit or nothing. So you can you can work a little bit once I entitle you to a reduced benefit, but you're going to have to be very careful not to go over. Because if you go over on the monthly amount, then you're going to get a letter from us that says, you know what, you really were not retired, so we're just going to stop everything, and we're going to start you again in January when we find out how much you're going to earn for the next year. If you take early retirement with us and you are still working, it is your responsibility to contact our agency in January, maybe February, and tell us what you expect to earn for the year. Because what we'll do is if I know in January that you're going to earn $18,000, I can subtract that earnings limit, $16,920 from $18,000, take that figure, divide it in half, because it's $1 for every $2 you go over, and then I can withhold your benefit until you've kind of charged off that amount you're going to owe us. So rather than getting all the way to the end of the year and owing us a huge amount of money, we'll just withhold your checks throughout the year and then start you based on your estimate when we can pay you again. I think communication is key. I don't think people think of the government as being easily accessible or easy to deal with, but communication is key with our agency so that we can help in situations like that. Thank you for that question.
And I've got a follow-up question.
Sure.
Just 6 months before a 65th birthday, calls about Medicare telephone calls. Should I assume that those are the ones wanting to sell you C and D?
You should assume that in every case, because I'm not going to call you. Okay. I don't know when you're 65. We're never going to call you about it. If you're receiving phone calls about Medicare or letters about Medicare, it is from insurance companies trying to sell you insurance. We won't send you a letter and tell you to enroll. You have to know when to enroll with us.
But applying for Part A, which you said is free, is probably still a good idea.
Unless benefits tells you not to, as far as Social Security is concerned, why not do it? Why not have that additional coverage? If you're hospitalized and your insurance through the U doesn't cover everything, then they're just going to bill Medicare. And that can only be a positive for you, is how we look at it. Thank you.
My question has to do with am I correct, you said 8% more per year?
Correct.
So if I retire after my 63rd birthday, it's 8% more than if I retired at 62?
No.
No.
That question was, what's the math? What's the math if I take it early as opposed to later, as opposed to late? I'm going to tell you I don't know the answer to that percentage, because when I reduce your benefit for early retirement, I reduce it a fraction of a percentage point for every month that you come out early. So I can't tell you exactly what that's going to be. Where the 8% comes in is between full retirement age and 70.
Okay.
That's where that 8% is a definite. If somebody wants to do the math, you can do that. I could not sit and do that math all day long because I have way too many people I've got to take care of. So I try to deal with, here's what it will be this month, here's what it will be that month. Where do you want to go from there?
Hi, I have a question about the ex-spouse rule.
Sure.
If I collect under that, can I collect until I'm 70, drop that one, and then use what mine would be at 70 without any penalty to my original benefits? And is the amount based on the amount he would get when I apply? So if he's 64 versus 66, it would be a smaller amount because he's only 64?
So that's a really complicated question, but it's a good question. This is an ex-spouse question. So your question is, can I file under my ex-spouse record and at a young age and then switch to my own at, say, full retirement age? Here's where that thing called deemed filing comes in. If you are under full retirement age and you want to benefit from us, you have to take your own. That was always the rule. Then people figured out that there was a loophole that if they got to age 66, they could not file for their own and file for their ex-spouse, half of their ex-spouse. They've closed that loophole. So if you were born after January 2nd, 1954, you have to take your own benefit first. And that's always been the case if you file before full retirement age, and now that's true even after full retirement age. Unless your ex-spouse has passed away. Then the rules are different. Then you are not limited by deemed filing. Is he still living? Then you have to take your own first. And then we'll see if there's anything we can pay you on your spousal record. There's an age requirement where they close the loophole, though? Yes. When were you born? Pardon? When were you born? Were you born before January 2nd, 1954? Yeah. Then we can take a look at that and see what we can do. But it's a different. There are. I said one loophole, but it's a multi-pronged scenario. So there are several factors that I have to look at. If he had passed, it would be no issue, because you're both still alive, obviously. Then I have to look at several portions of that law, and I'm going to tell you that I would want you to come in and let me look at it. You are going to have to file for your own if you're born after that date. Before that date, I may still be able to help you. Yes, if you are under, you still have to file for your own.
Okay, we have a question here.
I have a question regarding the divorced widower.
This is always a hot topic.
Benefits.
Obviously.
And that question is with regards to making an appointment Is that necessary, and what documents would be needed?
You can always walk into any local Social Security office. You don't have to come into Ann Arbor. We always like you to go to your local office. You're just going to have a little bit of a wait time. In order to do any kind of a documentation on somebody else's record, we have to have proof that the marriage occurred, and proof that the divorce occurred, and proof that the death occurred in this case. So I would need to see original or certified marriage certificate, original or certified divorce certificate, and then if we don't already know that he has passed, we would need to have information on his passing. Chances are we'll know if he's been gone for a while. Chances are we've already received proof of that, so that would be harder. But you also, and this is something, I'm sorry, ma'am, over here with the ex-spouse question, we need to know your ex-spouse's Social Security number. So when you come in, you got to bring us that Social Security number. I can find it, but I can't release it to you. So you need to bring it. If you no longer know your ex-husband's or ex-wife's Social Security number, check your kids' birth certificates. For many years, Social Security numbers of the parents were on the birth certificates. Or look for an old tax form that you might still have hanging around. But we do need you to bring that as well.